Oh, that's the wrong screen. 1 second. There we go. Forgot what I was doing. There's where we want. Hey, Joker, how's it going? So it's been a couple weeks since I did my due diligence and I actually did some work on the project here, but I've come about again this week to be at least moderately on task. Now, a big part of that is because, interestingly, within the last week, I've come across a handful of, I say a handful, but just bubbled up across my blue sky of like purchasable, or really one was free, but if you wanted to easily get all of them, it was like a donation style Godot assets, or just broad gaming assets in general, of the Creative Commons license sort, so you can use them freely in commercial projects with or without attribution. So I picked up some of those, and that helped reinvigorate me to have some reason to sort of like jump in and try to, take another look, see where we're at. One of the asset packs has a variety of relatively low poly, like various kinds of stuff, honestly. It's from a individual named Kenny. And so within these are like various assets. So there's like a watercraft pack, right? There's like ships that are not really what I intend to use or need, but there's something at least that we can put in place so as to have something that doesn't look totally stupid like boxes, as well as take the opportunity to try to practice and understand how like those assets are actually pulled in and then applied to things. There's also some space. Yeah, like the space ones, these could also be used as like ships, other ships, whatever. And so, yeah, I've got a bunch of these now, which is pretty neat. Well, let's start here. OBJ. And we've got textures. Textures are empty. The problem is that I'm just not clear on how these assets are supposed to be pulled in and then applied. So let's see here. We have the models here. So we're getting a little bit off track of what I had sort of initially intended for the next milestone. Mostly because the big thing that I need to do is do something about my camera control. You know what, let's take a real quick look, because I wanted to do one experiment. So for our player 3D, so this captures the mouse. Okay, so this is the capture or release of mouse. Mouse mode captured. Mouse mode visible. Is there a mouse mode input dot confined? Makes the mouse cursor visible if it is hidden. Okay, confined I think is actually what I want, because that should confine it to the window. Is camera motion. So these I don't... I don't think I need these. Because I don't like the way that the camera is working. And so let's... Okay, this does do what I want. Okay, so this captures it within the window, and it's still triggering. So what I actually want to do with the camera is, instead of controlled directly with the mouse, what I want is for it to move the camera as it approaches the edge of the screens. So like you can kind of click and target and aim at things with the mouse, and ideally the cannon turret will, you know, move along with that. And then as you approach the edge, then the camera starts moving in sort of the direction of the, like, edge. Probably like a circle, right? Really want a circle, and then outside of it, the camera moves in that direction. That would be sort of ideal. So this gets it slightly more along the way. Another thing I did, which you can only sort of barely see, is I grabbed the water boundary and I gave it a new group. So we have player as a group, we have enemies as a group, we have water as a group, and then I expect I'll have terrain as a group. And why I did that is so now the cannon shells, just like they disappear and do something when they impact an enemy, now they can impact and do something different when hitting the water. And then I'll have the terrain. The idea there being, one of the things that I did get in the asset bundles are some particle effects, so like impact particle effects. I don't think one of them is particularly a splash, but the idea would be that terrain and enemies would be like an explosive effect, whereas hitting the water would be a splash effect, some other non-explosive effect. So that's why I've done that and how we're moving in that direction. Okay. Let's get some models in there. I guess folder, watercrafts. It's already in the models folder. I guess it can just be in the watercrafts. So then this goes in here. Hey, Kappa. Texture detected is used in 3D, enabling map generation and setting. Okay. Okay, so hello there, Avengran Gauma. I have very simple projectiles at the moment. That's where we're at. And honestly, they weren't tremendously complicated to set up. I am using rigid body. Is that true? I'm using rigid bodies? Static body. Rigid bodies. I haven't worked on this project in like 2 weeks, so now I have to remember all the shit that I did. Cannon shells. What is a cannon shell? Yes, it is a rigid body. So as far as projectiles go for me, I'm trying to make a cannon shell, so I needed them to be rigid bodies so that they're affected by gravity, because the intention is for them to be cannon shells of, like, ship cannon shells, which have a nice arc to them. And so rather than going the route of, like, a static body, which I guess you would have to sort of manually give an arc, I went the route of rigid bodies so that I can simply apply force and let the gravity do that automatically. We'll find out eventually if that is harder, really, than I was anticipating. Like, if there are unforeseen consequences to have made that choice. But, I mean, honestly, for the most part, everything that I am at this point doing is more so for my own edification and trying to understand how all of the systems function in the first place. And not least of all, simply because I am trying, like, I fought with it just briefly at the end of last time I worked on this, which I just remember doing and then being really frustrated of just trying to understand how to get a mesh, like a real mesh, onto an object. Because I've got these FBXs, but the FBXs, well, I've got them in several formats. I've got FBXs, I've got GLBs, and I got OBJs. The OBJs it doesn't seem to like very much, so that might not be a helpful thing to have. So, like, I have these, but what I need is the mesh within. Oh, wait, hold on. That looks like the same symbol that it was using for the OBJ. Is the OBJ already a mesh? Let me see here. Player 3D, player mesh. Can I simply, like, drag and drop? Oh, shit, yeah. Okay. So the OBJs are just, like, ready to utilize shapes. I love this for me. This freaking fan boat. Houseboats. Boat row? Oh, right, like a rowboat. It's like, what do you mean row? In a row? No, a rowboat. So these are just different colors. Ooh. None of these are likely to be assets that are used permanently, but they are an improvement on a box. Well, so these did not come out of Blender directly. These are assets that I had purchased, and so they have come in the form of OBJs, GLBs, and FBXs. These in particular are actually totally free assets. I paid $10 in order to get the entire pack of them, like, just all in one download, and it was convenient, and also it helps support someone who is making game assets that they're putting out there for free. They're from this individual named Kenny, or at least that's what they go by, like their art name, whatever, is Kenny, and it's this useful pack of, like, 3D assets, 2D assets, audio, the stuff like icons. So, like, all of this UI assets, like control cursors, stuff like that. So all of this is stuff that isn't really the style that I would choose to make the end result of what I'm doing, but at the very least, one, if they end up in a build that is actually released at some point, if I can ever actually manage to accomplish what I set out to do and make a thing, it will be fine that they're there because they are Creative Commons licenses and permitted to be there. They are not produced by AI, which also good. And they make the process of making the game look slightly less like ass. And I'm not very good at Blender. I'm quite poor at Blender, in fact. Okay, so let's see. Rather than... Let me make a new folder for spacecraft, which... Not a spacecraft game, but some of the spacecraft kind of look like ships, and I might prefer using one of those just because it tickles my fancy more. Let's pull the space kit in. It'll be nice to just be able to have things look like literally anything. If I'm being honest, just anything. Make anything look like anything. I'm kind of wondering if I can slap something together for the cannon as well. If any of this would sort of work for a cannon. Oh, hold on. There are literally missile turrets. They're not missiles, they're cannons, but you know what? It's close enough. Well, here's the thing. I could. It is true. I know that I could. It's all a matter of how much motivation do I have in order to, like, carry forward a project. Like, I am already attempting to sort of learn the entirety of Godot and get my ass back to coding for the GD script, and I already don't really like coding. And so I simply know myself well enough to know that if I am trying to take on, like, also learning Blender, another thing that isn't really my favorite thing, that it's going to degrade my motivation to carry on the project, right? So it's like, I can't offload doing the coding of the game, right? Like, that's a piece that is integral to making an end result. And so instead, I am trying to take the route of, at a low cost, sort of like offloading at least some assets. And I've bought several packs of music that can be used in games. Like, have you considered rebuilding the project from binary? No, but you know what? Why don't I just sit down and take on an old roller coaster tycoon and write the whole thing in, machine language? Why not just take it right on down to whatever machine language for, I guess it would be the x86 processing machine language. Why don't I just do that? Piece of cake. God, what a lunatic that guy was. Got a banging ass game with, like, some of the least bugs, like, shockingly, considering that, like, pipeline of work. Like, AI could never, right? Like, AI could never hope to put together something like that. And this guy's just out here, just straight maniac. What a legend. Absolute legend. Okay, this comes in even more formats. Okay, so we should have some crafts. What's what? Not that one. Not that one. Not that one. No. No. What kind of... No. Well, what the hell kind of craft was that? This guy. I like this guy. This guy feels slightly boat-y. Okay, so these were the speeders. These were the two cargos. What's this guy? Craft. Oh. Maybe the miner? It is the miner. Okay. Let's work from that for now. Craft miner. Boop. And then collision. Can I give you the same mesh? No. Shape. Interesting. So, interesting. I guess that's not typical. I know, so Unity, I've used Unity a little bit more, mostly because I made this model in Unity. I've worked with it to some extent on things like that. And interestingly, you can make a collision directly the same as the underlying mesh, which I find to be convenient, but of course not particularly performant. So it's not really the best practice to do so. I suppose we could use simply the box and then make it more accurate for now. I mean, especially since this isn't really our intended shape in the long run. I suppose there's really no reason to try to make it perfect. Okay, a little bit more. Beep, 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 beep. Down, just a scotch on the front, and then we can scoot it back. There, that's pretty good. Your wrist's in pain? That sucks. Have you, like, injured it recently? Have you given yourself some carpal tunnel from doing art and or otherwise? Is it just arbitrary discomfort? Probably from wielding a mouse for too long. That used to happen to me more. I think I have a much better posture than I used to. And so it doesn't cause me too much discomfort anymore. Okay, so then cannon. Now this one we also need to... We need the... machine, hanger, meteor, monorail, pipe, launcher, maybe? Rocket, base, rocket fins. I wish I could see the name of these. What would those be called? Was there any, like, launcher? No. Nothing at all in L's. Aliens, astronauts, barrels, bones, chimneys, corridors, crafts, craters, desks, machine, wireless, machine, generator. Ah, well, that is unfortunate. Sometimes shit just hurts, unfortunately. Turret. Turret, single, turret, double. Mesh. Okay, that's the double. Let's do single. Yeah. Ba-bum. Nice. Okay, so the marker This one we want to move now back here, because the marker is where the cannon shell is produced from. Is this animated in any capacity? Like, can I angle it up? And I suppose it doesn't really matter at the moment if I can or not. It's not really the job it's doing. Add child node. I didn't actually give this one a collision shape 3D, which I probably should. Box shape. Something that I never got a chance to talk to my friend about, who does more coding and has a little bit more experience at least working on stuff like this, although I'm not entirely sure if he would have a better idea than I, but it would at least be a discussion, is I'm not 100% sure what I should be doing for scale, right? So like all of these came in at 1x scale, and they are, you know, this size. Oh, I need to move that. But the question is, so like the shader that I had worked on for the water, which I followed a directions for, is not correct scale, right? Like it does not match the size scaling. But if I'm trying to make these things functionally the size of like a naval destroyer, which are, I kept forgetting to look it up, how naval destroyer dimensions. So like technically I should be expecting something to function as though they were, how long? I mean, what, like dozens of meters? 100 meters? How long is a destroyer? I just try to find long. 160, okay. Modern guided missile destroyers are equivalent in tonnage but vastly superior in firepower. Cruisers of the World War II area. 510 feet or 160 meters long. Displacement of the 9,200 tons. So I mean, we're in like the 120 to 160 meter long range, but like these are what? Because like one of these units here, right? Like this is 1 by 1 by 1 and is approximately considered a meter each, right? We're operating on essentially Minecraft rules by default. So this is technically functioning as though it is, let's round it over to 4 meters long. And 4 meters long is notably not 160 meters long. Objectively not the same. 4 less than 160. Groundbreaking stuff. And so I don't know if I should modify the scale of the player to make this mesh, which is like, so it's custom. We can do surfaces. There's the asset path. And the most we can do is we can scale with a transform. I think generally they were saying that like scaling is something we kind of want to avoid because it I think it does weird stuff. Like we really want to make size different, but I don't actually know how to sort of like re-export these at a different size. And so the thing is that since it's supposed to be 160 meters, but it's operating as 4 meters, the main issue is that my forces at play are all out of whack. Since I'm using rigid body, I have to apply force, and then gravity takes effect. And so when we're working at like 2.5% scale, like the force of gravity is functionally 25 times... 20 times? 25? 20 times? Way more than it should be, which makes projectiles, like, not feel like they're behaving correctly. And so I don't know if the strategy should be to scale up all of the assets so that they are behaving more appropriately, or if the strategy should be to alter the defaults, and so reduce what 1 square in Godot is, as well as like manipulate what gravity is. I don't really know what the correct solution is for something like that. And so I don't know. And honestly, it may be that I'll actually want to maybe take these assets into Blender, and then I might need to edit them. By edit them, I mean learn how to edit them so that I can give it rotation, right? Like rotation and tilt. If I want it to actually be a meaningful asset for any period of time. Obligatory Minecraft. Yes, yes. Okay. So this now is operating, or at least it looks a lot less ass. So that's pretty cool. Like we like that. Look at it go. It's got an appearance. It scoots around. We can actually hit things. Man, how much mass did I give that damn ball? So much more mass, apparently. Okay. So that's something interesting. So one of the next things that I'd like to do is actually, I guess first and foremost, I'd kind of like to add an arc to the cannon. So the cannon is the one that instantiates, it sets rotation, and it fires based on the parent's rotation for Y. Cannon shell no dot. So I could just give it cannon shell no dot set rotation. I don't need set rotation. Hold on. Can I please get details about this? What is this communicated in. Is this radians or is it degrees? It's probably radians. Set rotation. So this is sending rotation Y, but I want specifically then to... Okay, hold on. Godot, set rotation. How do I set the rotation of an object directly? Using 3D transforms. Set rotation. GD script. So do I need another line, or do I actually just need to add like a comma here? Because this is getting the rotation of Y. Euler angles, axis orders. The unique way to construct an orientation for the angles. There's a standard. Okay. Rotation must be applied first in the y-axis. Godot uses a y-up orientation followed by rotation in the x. Line rotations in x, y, and z is not enough. You also need a rotation order. There is so much complicated shit that I am looking at right now about 3D transforms and rotations. I am baffled that this line just worked. Like, what? How did that just work? Green relative dot, Boy, you know you're in for a hell of a time when you hit a section that's called interpolating with quaternions. You got it, man. Whatever you say. Because I want this to be angled up. Why is like this set rotation, like, it doesn't get underlined? Like, how am I supposed to... Like, these other ones have information about them. I can go and look at it, and it's helpful. So the set rotation... Underscore set rotation. Is this just... node. So is this just applying directly to the... like constants in here? Yeah, because we've got set rotation, no match. Rotation, no match. Node 3D, rotation. Okay, so it is in here, set rotation. Vector 3, set rotation value, setter. Rotation of this node is in Euler angles, in radians, and in parent space, relative to the parent node. This value is obtained from basis as rotation. Vector 3.x is the angle around the local x-axis. Pitch. Y is yaw. Okay, so we're setting the yaw. We want to set x. It's so complicated. I guess I gotta look up Euler angles. Euler angles are 3 angles introduced by Euler to describe the orientation of a rigid body with respect to a fixed coordinate system. Sure. They also represent the orientation of a mobile frame of reference in physics. Sure. Chain rotations equivalence. Bro, this doesn't help me. This is too complicated to help me right now. Okay, so of note, set rotation of this node in radians. So we know it's in radians. So if this is like degree to radians, we want like a 15 degrees. I don't. How do I how do I ensure that that's an X? So like we're just sending radians. Because this would definitely just overwrite this. Surely, no, how do I communicate that this is X? Oh my god, I don't understand. Why? How? You know what? We're just gonna come back to it. Who gives a shit? We're not adding any arc. Arc is for losers. No arcs. Arcs are stupid. We'll deal with that entirely another time. Okay. Now, within a cannon shell. So then the other pack of assets that I got were mostly particle systems. And there are some projectiles and there are some impacts. Is it only magic projectiles? There's also muzzle flash, actually. Okay, so it's mostly magic projectiles that I have in here, but honestly, they will function for cannon shells. Okay, so magic projectiles. Unzip. Extract here. Assets. Folder. Particles. Okay. Use folder. Projectiles. Magic projectiles. Error. Not load shader. Oh. I see. The shader is there. Okay, hold on. Hold on. You could cancel that. Okay, hold on. Hold on. Let's... Okay, so let's remove that. So we need the parent of that. We need this whole one. Okay, so throw all of that in there. That should have the shaders in it as well. I kind of feel like I'm doing things a little bit out of what I would consider to be the optimal order, but I will likely feel better about myself if we have something that like looks okay. Like there's like visual, there's audio, there's like effects, which will hopefully be motivating to carry on. Ah, yes, here we go. Perfect. There is a sample scene. Look at this shit. Okay, so I think like these guys I think will work just fine for like a cannon shell. Question, of course, is going to be if they... Like, I'll have to do something about pointing in the direction of, like, arc, which is something I'm going to have to learn, I expect. Okay, so 4 appears to be... X appears to be the red one. I don't actually know how to... I want the javelin. I don't actually know how to apply a particle system to an object. I expect that it should be as simple as pulling the scene in under this. So then we could technically get rid of the mesh instance. Delete. And so the area and the collision. I don't think we need a collision shape. No, it wants a collision shape. So it can't collide or interact. Okay, no, I do need the collision and the area. Honestly, that is approximately accurate enough. I don't think it's going to make much of a difference. And then we can open this scene specifically. And so what do we have? These are... We've got mesh instance, another mesh, a mesh, a light, and an animation player. Interesting. So this isn't actually a particle system at all. It is a visual effect, but it is entirely made of meshes. Interesting. Overall, what is this? What is a VFX controller type? Interesting. And this is using the shader materials, which we can make changes to. To change the way things look. Interesting. This is not exactly what I would have expected out of that. I was hoping for particle systems. I know particle systems better. Oh no. That's not... That is not at all what I expect. Okay, so it's using a specific direction. How do I get it to point? The sphere, I didn't have to make it point a direction. Interesting. We're setting a rotation. And then we are firing, which is to apply an impulse. Based on the rotation. Rotation on this should simply follow okay, what am I looking at? So if we go here, you know, it also does not look like it is properly ceasing to exist when it hits the water like I was hoping it would. It's... now that there's a light on it, I can kind of see that it is sliding along. Do a quick experiment. It's gonna look goofy as hell. But if I take the entire cannon and if I rotate it, will that fire upwards? No, it doesn't look like it is. Okay. Script player. Also, I need to... actually, I'm gonna set this back now that I know how to undo this. Captured. And then we're gonna take this and we're gonna uncomment it. I had double commented it. There we go. This way I can turn the camera. I hate the way that this camera works now. That does suck. Venge. I believe that was right. Wasn't it Venge? Okay, so when I angle the whole thing up, it does not fire it up. Also, it doesn't... I see. Okay, so... So the mass is very low. Let me see. If I actually do... Shut up, I'll update you later. Get parent rotation dot rotation. If I just do rotation, will that work and thus also add, whoops. Since I have it, oh shit. Set rotation and base, cannot convert argument 1 from vector 3 to float. Okay, so I had written the set rotation, and I am specifically sending it on the, like, rotated around the x-axis. So I am... Vector 3 in an angle returns the result of rotating this vector around a given axis by angle. This must be a normalized vector. So if I wanted to, so this would rotate it around that axis. And then would I be able to... Force dot... This returns the result of rotating this vector. So would this be then dot... Okay, so we're applying it to this vector. Because I essentially want to do this twice. Force dot rotated. What if I were to... add a small value at the beginning? Because I think this is X, Y, Z. Would this angle it up? No, it's slightly to the left now. Consistently to the left. Okay, so let's make this smaller. 0, and And then maybe this is what I want, 0.1. Yes, there we go. Okay, so that launches it up and out. Interesting. Okay, so the issue I'm seeing is, so let's take the water plane and we're gonna hide that. Okay, so we are now arcing. Interestingly, there is something up with the drawing. Okay, we're learning. Okay, I want to validate a couple things. Okay, first and foremost, is the thing I did actually working? Yes. So they are correctly deleting themselves when they impact the water. That's good. That's one thing that is functioning. I don't understand well enough shaders to know why this particular shader is being drawn seemingly over the projectile. You see, so like, oh, yeah, you see how like once it falls back into that plane of being across the water, it like it's getting drawn behind. So that's usually like a Z right is what Unity visibility visible. I don't know. There's layers, sorting. Yeah, I'm trying to understand visual layers. Okay, what if we take this and put it at 20? Is this the order at which they're being drawn? So is it drawing the water first? That has not resolved it. Is it like a level of detail, a depth of field issue? Is it that we should draw this in the other direction? Here's the LODs. Proximity fade. Ooh, is that... local chords? I wonder if that will resolve the rotation issue. Is that what we want? Whoops. Nope, definitely has not resolved it. It's still facing that one direction. Whee! Okay, I mean, that is fairly amusing. Whee! But we are still having some struggles. Okay, hold on. I think it must be related to the textures. Okay, so we have materials at play, right? Surface material override, material override. Yeah, I'm trying to understand that. Resource. Let me see here. Projectiles, source, materials, javelin, for shader material. Okay, so here's the render priority. Higher priority objects will be sorted in front of lower priority objects. In other words, all objects with render priority 1 will render on top of all objects with render priority 0. I don't feel like simply setting the render priority higher is the correct thing to do. Because we don't want it to always render first, because it would, like, if it passes behind something, it would still render on top. That's not technically correct. I don't know exactly why it's rendering like that, though. There, it's kind of doing it. You can see it's entirely gone. But then we start getting some on top here. I also want it to point in the direction of travel, which I'm not sure how to do. Huh. Okay. Let's go ahead and hold off on this. Let's add back our mesh instance. Sphere. Okay. Give that back. Where's our material override? Standard material. Color. Albedo. Color. Okay. We'll put that back so that it just making spheres again. We'll worry about the rest some other time. And then we can script, cannon shell. Five, 3. We'll set the force. So yeah, see. Oh god, it's got a little bit of arc to it. That's a little better. Whoop, 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 whoop. So then, another option that we do want. So, cannon shell. Within the cannon shell, another option would be we have not magic projectiles, we have impacts. Hologram, ice, orbs, water, impact. Start to impact VFX. Accent. Then we'll add impacts. That's not what I meant to put that. Let's change this name. Rename VFX. Oh God. Why did you hate that? My dude. Folder, impacts. Impacts, going to impacts, move. Then we have a sample scene. Why do you... Bro, that's some dog shit. What? Why can't you find your shit, actually? Okay, so if we just delete this entirely and re-import it, did you just really hate my renaming of that folder further up, which is crazy? Like, legitimately crazy for you to complain that badly about that. Yeah, that one loads. Okay, so we got impacts. Look at it. Glorious. We've got a variety of kinds of impacts. We have some variety of colors. We got some just like flashes, a little more. Down here, they've got like kind of like melee cartoon hits, I would say. We've got some more ground hit explosion style. Got some blue stuff. Very swirly. Okay, this guy. VFX Explosion 5. Feels pretty correct for me. So, VFX Explosion 5 gets put into Cannon Shell. No autoplay. One shot. How do we actually trigger the thing? Okay, so VFX is... So you have script. It's only in the editor. By default works like emitting on particles. When one shot is enabled, works as a button. Engine is editor hint. If one shot value true, play, else. Or export group. Sure. Transparency. Mesh resolution. Intertree. Function play. Okay, so under Cannon Shell, we could do VFX or would we be able to address dot play? I don't know. Is it that easy? Whoa! What is that? That's not right at all. What is going on there? What is going on there? Jesus Christ. Okay, that is obviously that VFX player. Why is it doing that? Local coordinates, yes. Is there... Okay, so maybe it's because... Okay. 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 I think I see why. That method of initiating it is not correct. So we don't want to play. We want it to autoplay, and we want it to do one shot. It's actually, I guess we would toggle it off, and then dot activate visibility dot visible. So if we make it visible, that should bring it on. However, since we're Q3ing immediately, does it not play? It still doesn't play. The bouncing is funny. Make So why I am trying to do it this way is because I noticed that if it's always alive, the light, the smoke, like all of this stuff seems to persist without the animation. So it triggers to emitting. It shouldn't. No, that should work. That should be the right way to do this. Okay, so that's starting right off the bat. Okay, so maybe that's not the correct way to do this. So maybe this should not... I mean, surely it makes sense to be part of the cannon shell. Yeah, but the light, the decal, so much of it already exists once it's created. The problem is that this cue free occurring at the same time as trying to play this doesn't work because it will kill it as soon as it tries to play. Huh. Interesting. how would I go about would I put it as part of, say, the canon? And then make an instance of it? Maybe? What was I using? Explosion 5. Part of the cannon. It's not visible. So then the cannon shell. So this would be like get parent dot add child, add sibling. You know, I really should just go adding VFX to Godot. Alright, YouTube. What do you got for me? How to make VFX in Godot. Sure, but in this case, I actually need to know how to trigger VFX. I make particles and visual effects. Fire shader. Create particles and sprite sheet textures. Triggering VFX in Godot. Okay, let's see if this
of VFX in Godot. We'll learn about the tools that are...
Brackies has done other useful tutorials. Let me pause my music here.
Our disposal for creating all kinds of cool effects from magic to rainfall, and how you can quickly start putting together effects of your own. And at the very center of VFX in Godot is the powerful particle system. Something that can be a bit intimidating because of the many settings, but we'll look at how you can start simple and then layer more stuff on top as you get comfortable. We'll break down a bunch of VFX to learn some interesting techniques that I personally find really useful, and we'll make our own in both 2D and 3D.
System,
I know that's a lot to cover in just one video, so to make sure that it doesn't get too overwhelming, let's light this ceremonial video torch, and then I promise the video will be over before it burns out. Now, when working with VFX, I like to have a small library of assets ready to experiment with, especially textures. So I've gone ahead and bundled together a bunch of my favorites into an asset pack that you can download for free using the link below. It contains all of the assets that I'll be using in this video, from sprite sheets with cool pixel art effects, to textures that are perfect for particles, and even some flipbooks.
Okay, hold on.
Now, sometimes when you're using multiple particle systems with transparent materials like I'm doing here, you can get issues with Z-fighting. Z-fighting is when multiple particle systems are overlapping and the renderer can't reliably tell which to display in front of the other.
Yeah, so that was the issue I was having with the shader.
Especially when the camera moves. We can avoid this pretty easily by simply offsetting the particle nodes causing trouble, which is often a good idea anyway. In this case, I thought it looked better to have the smoke a little higher than the fire. This means that as long as the particles are viewed from a higher angle, they will draw in the correct order. But of course, if I view from underneath, the fire still pops in front. Luckily, there's a setting that is meant just for this. It's hiding all the way down under the visual instance, sorting. Here we can change the depth offset to make the particles reliably draw on top of other objects in the same spot, which is perfect for our particle layers. Of course, we are still just drawing one layer on top of the other. Sometimes we want them to more organically blend together. To do this, if our systems are fairly similar, we can combine them into one, which can actually look even better for stuff like fire and smoke. Here's a simple fire that I made using only techniques that we've learned so far. It has 3 layers, a fire layer using this texture, a smoke layer using the same texture.
The sun is too hot.
And an ember layer that emits tiny particles
with
this texture.
That is indeed an issue
at
hand.
An omnilight at the base. And because I'm using the same texture for flames and smoke, it's actually pretty easy to combine these into one system. Except, this also means that they need to share the same material. And remember earlier when we talked about blend modes? I said that I often use add for fire and mix for smoke. If we try to use add now, most of the smoke disappears. And if we use mix, our fire becomes really flat. The solution? Pre-multiplied alpha. Pre-multiplied alpha allows us to blend between add and mix using the alpha channel. Confusing? Yes, but let me show you how. First we go to our texture and under the import settings.
This is all very interesting, but not actually what I need right now. Because I actually need to know how you actually initiate a particle effect. Okay, so how are we doing our cannon? So when we fire the cannon, we do cannon shell dot instantiate. And we pull in. Okay, so we are preloading the cannon shell scene. Okay, so maybe that's actually what we should be doing. So cannon shell. So let me so we want to do constant explosion equals preload this. We have too many quotes. Okay, so there we have that. We don't need this. That's not what we need. We also don't need this as part of the cannon shell. Or as part of the cannon. Or technically part of the cannon shell. Delete. And so with the cannon, we are instantiating. So we would do variable cannon shell explosion equals. Oh, I think this constant should be explosion. Explosion dot instantiate. McNeil Gaming, hello. I believe it would be over ambitious necessarily to call myself a dev of any sort. But we are learning. We are Godot dev in training. But thank you for coming by. I appreciate the support. God knows I need it. So this instantiates it. If this is set to okay, you know what? Let's just see what happens under these circumstances. Nothing. I think that's to be expected. What we want is to... So we instantiate it. Then we would need to play it. Cannon shell explosion dot play. First, we need to cannon shell explosion dot set So I'm just wondering, well, you know what? Might as well just try, because I'm concerned that it's going to just repeat. It's going to do jack shit is what it's going to do. Man. Using more Unity, but once Unreal 7 hits next year, you're going to be able to merge into Unreal. I am much more familiar with Unity, honestly. I made this model via Unity largely, along with some other stuff, Vroid Studio than Unity. And so I'm more familiar with Unity, and God, I wish I was using what I was familiar with. But I like the fact that Godot is open source. Unity is, as a company, has kind of been not... If I'm really learning to make a game from scratch, I'd rather go the open source route than hitch my wagon to Unity or anything else. But I'm a little more familiar with Unity than I am with Godot at the moment. Why can't I get this damn thing to actually do this? So why is this different? This is how we get... Like, this is how we make the cannonball. Why does the same premise not work for the explosion? I don't understand. Well, shoot. I guess I could check the Godot trigger VFX documentation, please help. Godot VFX documentation. Wow, it's hard to get the documentation to even come up. How does VFX work in Godot? Forum Godot engine for complete newbie. Okay, this might help. Godot version, this is 4.2, which is a little bit old, but we are still in 4. Working on a Pong game, we've got lots of progress. Never been introduced to the process of creating VFX at all. I don't know where to start. Play around with particles. Sure. This? With
I
a
never
link.
understood how games can have effects like these. Ever since I was a little toaster, they have
How
fascinated
games
me.
make
And then
VFX
I learned to program and still did
demonstrated
not
in
have a clue.
Godot.
From the outside, you would expect it to be weird black magic fuckery no one understands.
Okay, that's a little bit more basics than I want. A little more basics than I want. Operations will steal your soul. It's true. It's true. Making your own shaders. 2D particle systems. Okay, let's see. Can I get... So this is part of... Okay. Do we have perhaps a README? Impact VFX. I would love to have it. Is there a README or anything, my dude? How? How? Uh, oh, damn. He's got a whole second bundle. Other stuff in it. Sing. Third explosion. Okay. That does not help me, though. Because I need to understand how to actually use this shit. Sorry, I'm reading over here, asking some questions about trouble importing. Having issues with shaders on 4.5. Ah. Like, uh, uh, da, 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 da. This is making me feel very stupid because everybody else is like, oh, great. It's just like, okay, but how does it actually get used? Someone explain. Uh, don't understand how to get this to work. Which I think is just a failing of my own because GPU particles set one shot to true and emitting to true. Add a collision ship set to a circle sphere for the blast radius. So the challenge I'm having at the moment, go away, is that I have these particles that were part of a pack. So I have these systems that work, that do a thing. The issue that I am running into is that I am unclear how to properly trigger them at the time that I want to trigger them. Because my goal at the moment is I want to trigger a hit effect on impact. I am having issues in sort of understanding where that object / node, I guess they call them, needs to exist in the scene to do that. Because as it stands, I had initially just tried to put it on the cannon shell. But the problem by putting the explosion on the cannon shell was that even when it was on a one shot, because because there is a script for this, and there is a function play, which one would think would do it. Function ready, maybe? Function play. And to play. And then await finished. Else reset particles. If it's one shot. Particles, get mesh instance, get meshes, set light prop. Like what? Where does this need to belong in order to play at the correct time and at the correct location? I stopped my music and now it's too quiet. Come back here. Thank you. That's what I don't understand. Should it be part of the cannon, which will continue to exist and then fire cannon shells? Like, do I need to... So this was... I guess this was the one thing that I wasn't doing when I was trying to... Cannon shell instantiate. Cannon shell explosion.play. What I did not do was... like self.get global, what did I call this? And shell node.global position equals. this would be like cannon shell explosion dot global position equals. So this would be just like get global. Marker 3D dot global position. This would just be what, like self dot global position. Like, is that it? Is that what I need? Does that put it in the correct location? Sure as shit doesn't. How would I know that if this is working? I mean, I could... So I have the dot function play. Can I like do a print? Explosion played. Let's start from there. Is that even making it okay? So it is getting here. It is getting here. Print. Global position. Okay, so the position doesn't seem to be correct, for one. So that's what I was wondering. So you're suggesting that I should have the explosions on the targets. I was kind of wondering if that's the more correct way to do it, rather than trying to tie the explosions to the projectiles. So the explosion is allegedly playing. What does that mean? So, like, oh, I guess this... Maybe if I put it... Okay, so if I shift that, that would make sense why that was being the case there. So let me see here. Yeah, put that back. Okay, yeah, so the position is not correct. It doesn't seem to have any position. It's at 0, 0. I'm also not, like, deconstructing this after it's played. Hold on. Where is... There's the way to... right? Like, oh, chill. Right, so this is... Yeah, so it's creating stuff. Is it doing anything? Seem to be creating that. Is the one shot set to true and is your emitting set to true? It was... Well, and that's one thing that I guess I'm not totally sure on. So I have this. Okay, so one shot set to true. Is your emitting set to true? I don't necessarily see emitting. Okay, so that is set to one shot, but that also... I also don't know why the cannonballs sometimes bounce off of stuff, but that's an issue for another time. Like sometimes the areas don't actually collide properly. Man, I just don't understand. Well, what's really getting me... Okay, so each of the individual particle systems emitting is... I see. Okay, so the emitting gets turned on along with the... via the animation player that plays. Which should also control the light. So that should all be fine. So this core one shot is what we need. Yeah, so it should be set to trigger properly. And we have the script here, which would be the function play. To then... Which is why we hit this line to print explosion blade. Let's move this. That's not giving us any information at the moment. Blade, one shot. Oh, that's too indented. Okay, so... Okay, so it sees that it is in fact one shot, and it is making it into this code path. And then reset particles, also set to on. Whether to reset particles when animation loops. Baffling. What does the local coords mean? Is that like... I don't see it anywhere. It just doesn't do anything. The debugger is chirping about something. What are you yelling about? Errors. Cannon shell is inside tree is true. Returning transform 3D. What are you yelling about with that? Need to make sure they're in the scene tree. So that's probably the issue that I'm having. I'm not, I guess, entirely sure where they should live in the scene tree. Because hypothetically, I had in the script for the cannon shell, I am preloading that scene. I can only presume that that is not the correct location to put that, however. So here's where this whole thing started, I guess. So the first thing I had done was added this to the scene tree within the cannon shell. But by doing so, I was having a weird outcome in the sense that when I fired it, it does that. Like, it emits light the whole time when it should only be doing that on impact. But also, the other issue is that I don't know if it will execute that properly because the cannon shell is trying to like do that, but then it also then immediately queues it, like frees itself from the queue. Function ready. Void. Particles emitting. Goes true. Okay, so yeah, I guess that must be it. I did see that it had that function ready that I was not using. So there's function ready, and then there's function play. So I guess I need the function ready as well. Variable cannon explosion. So I instantiate. So then I would need to cannon shell explosion dot ready, because it does have that script. Function ready. I don't know if I need that. It doesn't seem to be doing anything. I mean, like, surely that's not all I need, right? No, of course not. Yeah, and I see you have, like, the finish await particles finish await particles dot finished Q3 in there, which I'm not entirely sure wherein this would be freeing itself from the queue either. God, trying to integrate and pull in something that is like supposed to be ready-made is so hard when you don't know what you're doing. Okay, let's change our tactic of trying to understand this, maybe. So instead of working within the cannon shell, so I'm just not sure if this is doing the thing that I want. I don't see why this would change anything if I moved it over here, but I'm just going to do it to... So we have constant explosion reload asset scene. So this should be loading that just the same way that we are doing the cannon shell. We instantiate the cannon shell. We do stuff, we fire the cannon shell. No, I totally understand. I'm sure, I can't imagine how frustrating it must be for you to be like watching me fumble around and try to process what you're putting out there. And I'm just like, I can't. I don't know, man. I'm trying. I know, like, it feels like this should not be complicated and should be relatively straightforward. And I feel like I am just making it unreasonably complicated just because I am missing what feels like it has to be something obvious. Explosion node equals explosion dot instantiate. So exactly the same way that we make the cannon shell, which works, we are instantiating. We then explosion node dot global position equals marker 3D dot global position. So exactly the same way as we are giving the cannonball its original position, we are now giving the explosions the original position. And so then explosion node dot play. Like that, I guess maybe I need to ready explosion. If I could type explosion node dot ready. Why don't you need parentheses? That's so weird. Name ready called as a function, but as a signal. Oh. I don't know enough about the signals. So I guess I don't need that. So, like, my expectation would be that... I don't get it. Why does this behave differently? Like, I would expect that exactly where the cannonball is produced, it should create an explosion, right? Like, I don't understand. I don't understand. I do the exact same thing. The exact same thing. It should just do it. Where's the explosion, my dude? Where's the explosion? It's nowhere. Nowhere to be seen. I don't understand why this works for creating this, but not for this. I mean, this... So, game, remote, right? So we player 3D, canon, mesh instance. So when we fire, we create cannon shells. We do not actually make instances of it's slightly off screen what I'm looking at. So what I'm looking at here is on the left I've got it set to remote. So we can see the cannon shells being created as I instantiated, and the created. Should this not... This should play the explosions though, right? Because this... So up here, I am creating this constant, and I am preloading this scene. And this scene is this scene. So I have preloaded that scene as part of the canon. Like, preloaded it. Right here. This should preload it. Just the same way that I've preloaded the cannon shell. This function, so I instantiate it, which should create it, right? Like I've followed the exact same setup that I have done for the cannonball. I preload the cannonball, and then I instantiate. I preloaded the explosion, I instantiate. So there should be an instance of it, right? Like that should create a version of it. And then I give it a position, and then I use the play function on it. Like this, logically to me, should do this. Like, I don't... Like, I have to... I know I am missing something obvious. That is clear to me, and I simply don't understand why this doesn't behave the same way. I have to call the node, but is that not what this is? Because I preloaded it, I have instantiated a node of it, and then I have called that node to play. Like, is this not doing that? Because, like, I thought, like, this, should this not apply it to the, like, bring it into the scene and then play it? Because that did work with the cannonballs. Like, that is how the shells work, is I preload it, I instantiate it, and then, well, I make it move with the firing, and I give it the position. Like, I don't understand, because I need to create a new instance each time of it, because there could be multiple explosions simultaneously. And I guess that's part of my confusion, is that this does not seem to be creating it the same way. Because this instantiate does add a node to this tree, it does in fact create a cannon shell. You can see them popping up over onto the left. It does not actually create a node for the explosion, which I don't understand why is my issue. And so, like, if that is the case, I'm not clear where I should be putting the VFX. Because if I were to put it simply, like, within the cannon here, like, if I put it on the cannon, like, it's just going to constantly be there lit for some reason. I don't know why it's like that. And it does not, like, and then I'd have to call it specifically to play. Like, when it's in the scene, it is behaving weirdly, or outside of what I would expect, I should say. And so this, I could even do, so we don't need this. Let's say we put this dot play. At least let's see. So we do this. So that does, it's sort of, okay, well now it's not playing as a one shot, it's just going. Which is weird. Well, right, but the thing is I can't... This is what I would have expected as far as the location of it, because of, yes, I attached it to the cannon, but as just a sort of troubleshooting mechanism. But the issue is that there's a few reasons that this sort of setup doesn't quite work. One, it's not obeying the fact that it's set to a one-shot, and it's continually looping. Two, I need it to be creating new instances each attempt of explosion because it's replaying it rather than layering explosions. So I need it to create a new instance of the explosion for every projectile. I don't... I also don't know why it starts in a, like, it starts in a partially played position, like the light and stuff is active and also just incredibly blinding. And I don't know why it does that. And then it, like, loops. You're not supposed to loop. You're literally telling me you went through the one-shot path. Why are you looping? Oh. Oh, this is not correct. Why is it not? This is, I read this wrong. This is not one shot. This is played as not one shot. So that's one issue. We should be hitting this, actually. But we are not. Why is it not set as one shot correctly? That's something that I don't understand. It's clearly labeled here. Variable one shot. Set value. Whoops. Engine is editor hint. One shot equals value. Preview equals false. Man. My poor brain. Today. I've tried it the same way you did for the cannon fire, then it should work. The thing is I thought I did that. That's what's killing me inside. I thought I had done that. And it just didn't do it. Instantiates the scene's node hierarchy. Triggers child scene instantiations. Triggers are node dot notification scene instantiated. Notification on the node tree. Or on the root node. This is painful. I mean, we're looking a little less like ass after today. We got that going for us. Although, we can't get... Yeah, I don't understand. I really struck out on the VFX both times. We at least have some models that look a little bit nicer. They're functional. We're looking a little less bad. I could even make these something more interesting to shoot at if I wanted to. This VFX, man, it really has me stumped. I feel like it shouldn't be that hard. But like the one shot isn't... The one shot's not doing the thing it's supposed to. I can't seem to figure out how to actually play the thing. I can't figure out how to get it where it's supposed to be. Painful. Painful, painful, painful. Yeah, it is certainly a shared experience. We have all been there. I hate being there right now. Okay, let's pivot slightly before I go entirely insane or just decide to cut and run early. One of the other main things that I needed to do is to change how the camera works. So let's see if I can find some kind of tutorial to make the camera work more like I want. So Godot camera move when mouse hits edge of screen. RTS camera edge scrolling. It's not quite that I'm looking for, but that would at least get me in the ballpark. See, mouse camera panning and scroll wheel zoom in Godot. Edge scrolling. Let's see what.
Alright, welcome back to the RTS camera series. In this video, we're taking things up a notch. Not only are we going to switch our
This is
project
not
into
Godot.
a proper game and UI mode so the
This
mouse
is-
actually
this
works
is
the
unreal.
way we want, but we'll also
Be gone. That is in the thumbnail, and I just did not look hard enough. Be gone. Blah, 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 blah. Camera following. Here, make the camera follow the player. Camera follow player. Godot RTS camera movement. That is several years old. Okay, let's use the term edge panning. Godot edge panning camera. Okay, camera panning and zoom. Godot edge scrolling and zooming. Yeah, I mean, it's 4 years ago, but let's see if we can get something out of it. Today I'm going to show you how to build something in the wrong engine. It's the right thing, it's just the wrong engine. Okay. This is 2D, but it is at least in the ballpark. If I can understand what they're using to... Okay, you're literally just showing it. You are not actually... Cool, cool, cool. Do we look at the code ever, anywhere to... Great. Great, thank you for that. Yes, good YouTube video, thank you. I love not having seen the script for that. Very rad. You have implemented the thing that I'm trying to find help for. Brilliant. Bloody brilliant. How to turn on and off. Okay, great. Now I'm getting tutorials on how to turn it on and off in other games. Oh, edge panning in Manor Lords. Yeah, I sure would like to know how to turn that off. That's important to me right now. Okay, RTS in Godot Part 2, adding camera movement and panning, inputs and mouse modes setup. Maybe that is correct. Random.
So now I'll be going ahead and adding some assets here to make our work a little better. So I'll be adding some grass texture here to our floor, just so we can make it a bit more visible. So let's go ahead and create a new folder, and this is going to be called images. And here I'm going to import our first
camera edge
asset,
scrolling.
which is going
yes. Okay, I don't care about all the other stuff.
So the first mechanic we'll be adding is to pan the camera whenever the mouse touches the edges of the screen.
Great.
So let's go ahead and do just that. First I'll be adding a constant here, which is going to control the margin of the panning. So let's add a constant, and let's add a span margin. And constants always are on the uppercase letter.
Camera pan
Let's
margin.
add them as floats, and let's put 5.0.
Okay, so I assume that
this size actually represents pixels and not
the
meters,
pixels
because
from the
this
edge.
is related to the
Okay.
to the 2D camera.
Makes sense.
So we'll be using this to match the pixels to trigger the panning of the screen edge. So let's put here a simple comment, just so we know what that is for. Alright, now let's go ahead and build the function that is going to handle this. So we can add this as a public method, because we can also allow other objects to call it. You can also change this as you want. So let's add the unit function called camera pan, and this is going to require us to pass delta to normalize the movement, and this function returns nothing, so void. So the first thing we want to do is to analyze the position of the mouse. So let's do a new variable, which is going to be calculating the mouse position, which is a vector2, and it's going to be equal to a our viewports. So we're going to get the viewports and get the mouse position through there. And there we go.
Get mouse
now
position.
We have the mouse
Okay,
position stored
great,
on the
helpful.
variable. Now we also need to get the viewport size, which is going to be a vector2, and it's going to be equal to our viewport, and we want to get its visible rectangle and its size, so get the size of the viewport. So now let's do some couple of checks that's going to actually move and pan our camera around. So if our mouse position on its X is going to be less than our camera pan margin, which is the constant we have built up on the top there. So if it's less than that, we'll be adding some velocity to our camera. So and I actually forgot to build the variable that's going to control the velocity of the panning. So this variable is going to control to whether the camera moves to the right, to the left, to the up, and this is basically the direction of the movement of the camera. So we call it as cam movement and velocity. And this is a vector3, which will be generate and assign it as 0.
It's a vector3.
So now we can actually edit that, and it's actually movement and not movement.
There you go.
So camera movement velocity X position is going to be now equals to -1 multiplied by delta. So delta here is used to normalize these movements because we'll be calling this function based.
Interesting. Is that necessary to operate as a vector3?
By your FPS. So you have a higher FPS count, you're going to run more function calls for process, and if you have a lower FPS, you're going to run a much more slower. So if you don't multiply this movement by delta, the function is going to be called more times when you have more FPS, resulting in the camera moving more when you have more FPS. So we multiply by delta, which is the difference between FPS to normalize these movements. So in order to make sure it stays constant despite the amount of frames per second your player has. So that is why we multiplied by delta. Now next, let's do our mouse position. If it's Y, it's going to be less than our camera pan margin. We're going to be adding its camera movement velocity on its Z to be equal to -1 multiplied by delta. So why Z and not Y? Because this is a vector3 and we are moving the camera in the 3D space. And as you can see here, Z points towards the front or the back and X to the left or right. And Y is actually upwards, so we want to move the camera on the X and Z, not on the Y. That's why we are using Z and not Y here.
Okay, so
next, let's add a far
I think he's
position.
like specifically 2D panning. So this should still work though in broad premise because we're getting the mouse position. We compare the mouse position to something, and then we
movement is going to be
do an action essentially.
Delta. And let's simply copy this line by using Ctrl+Shift+D, and let's change here some parameters. So the Y is going to be actually the size of Y here, and here we can also change this to be Z. So doing this simple function here, we now have a camera pan movement. Now let's copy this function.
Okay, now let's take a second. So script, player. So here's what we've got for our camera. Oh, although hold on, let me see. When are you actually calling this?
To our process here function.
Adding it
and
to the
let's
process.
pass here our delta. So because we have an underscore, let's delete that to use as a parameter. So just by doing this, we are capturing the mouse position and checking for the viewport size, and we actually change it here. We also could define this as a constant because this is not changing, but let's keep it as a var. So by each process we are running this function, which gets the mouse position, the viewport size, and we actually calculate the panning movement using this code here. So whenever we run the scene, we now should be able to pan the camera whenever.
Yeah, that should be Okay, I was just trying to think about efficiency. Because, yeah, I guess you have to get the position every frame and then compare. I was like, can you separate something out so that we don't have to go through all of those lines every frame? But probably not. Since we have to get the position. Because I feel like maybe if like this, get visible rectangle if mouse position is movement size dot x minus camera. Yeah, we gotta go through it all. That makes sense. So then these can be commented out. Do we have our process? We got our physics process. I have not had a line necessary for process. Because this was on input. Function unhandled input event. It's interesting. So he was using the process to deal with the camera pan, but these are previously I was doing it on an input. Function unhandled input event. I guess I don't really know the nature of the efficiency of those things or why I was doing. I mean, I followed a guide. It was like the first guide I followed was to set up the camera, and the camera was weird and not at all what I needed. Good luck, McNeil Gaming. Good luck on your projects. Thanks for coming by, though. I do appreciate it. Okay, so let's see here. We need a new function camera pan. More importantly, we are going to need our variables. What did he have?
Builds which is going to be
a constant, the margin. That's right. Yeah, okay, so we have our variables for the camera input directions. Yeah, so this is totally differently set up. I'm trying to think of how I actually want it to operate, right? I think I still want the pivoting and the rotating to be the same. So the input directions are fine. Okay, so the setup camera constant. So the only one we need that we didn't have before is the constant camera and margin. So for basic start, I think that's fine. I actually, this will be a little bit more complicated for me in the long run, because really what I want is, in an ideal world, I want there to be a circle in the middle of the screen that you can move the mouse around freely. And then as you move out of that circle, then you start moving the camera in that direction, slowly at first and faster the further outside of that circle you get. So you can quickly pan or you can slowly pan, and then you have a space in the middle that you can move around. So this is only going to be applying a margin at all of the very edges of the screen, which is not really what I want, but it is at least a start. It's like, how would I do that otherwise? So we need a space, and then we need to compare. So I guess what we would want to do is actually somehow compare it to the center of the screen and compare it to a radius of pixels. So we would want to compare the mouse position to like the distance of the mouse position to the center of the screen, compare that to an accepted radius, and then if it's outside of that radius, we would multiply the remaining like amount of the distance as like a scalar into the speed of the movement. So the further outside of that radius you go, the faster the movement scales. I guess that would be ultimately how we would aim to accomplish that. I'm not going to do that right now. I just need to get this even operating appropriately. So this goes from captured to confined to keep the mouse in. We need a function process delta float void, and within that, so we've got our variable mouse position vector 2. Well, it's I don't know enough about coding to really know the difference or the value, but like it feels weird to me to initialize this variable every single frame rather than having this outside of it and like initially initialized up here and then simply change its value every time. I guess that probably doesn't matter at all. Like there's probably no difference to that. Like, I don't actually know. It just feels weird to me that, like, we're just going to do that at, like, every 60 times a second. We're just going to make a new variable all the goddamn time. Who gives a shit? I mean, I guess they grow on trees. Who cares? Vector 2 equals get viewport dot get visible rect dot size. Okay. So then we do our ifs. If mouse position dot x is less than camera pan margin, then we would do a thing. And that thing, in our case, is not quite the same as what they were doing. So if the x, then camera input direction x equals, so like what were we doing? Set camera input direction if and only if mouse is captured, function unhandled input variable is camera motion, Event is input event mouse motion and input.get mouse mode equals input mouse mode captured. If is camera motion, then camera input direction X equals event dot relative times mouse sensitivity X. Camera input direction. Where did I... Camera input direction. Event.relative times mouse sensitivity. So it wouldn't be mouse sensitivity anymore. Instead, what we would have is these are X's rotate, right? Camera sensitivity X. Camera sensitivity Y. I didn't need to retype that whole thing, but I did it anyway. And so let me just reset these so that this still makes sense. So then we would take these event not declared in the current scope. I see. Okay, so we can't use that. Camera motion. Event is input mouse input.get mouse mode equals input captured it. Camera input direction. Interesting. Okay, so that simplifies that a little bit, which we can't use any longer. Cam movement velocity dot X. So we set this up. Camera input direction. Event. Okay, so it's really the event dot relative that we can't use. How are we translating this? Where does like this value get converted into actual rotation? It's part of the physics process. Camera rotator dot rotation plus equals camera input direction y dot y times delta. Okay. Interesting. So we have something going on already. So he put it in the process. Would it make sense for us to put it in the physics process? Because we already have half of it in the physics process anyway. This camera. So let's see how that flies. Okay, so we do need this here. but it's the event.relative that we can't do. Instead, we need the... We don't need this. This would be... Okay, so this is -1 times this. What are we doing here? Okay, maybe... So... Okay, what is this doing? Event.relative. So this, I guess, is the camera movement times the sensitivity, which gives us X. That X is then being used up here. Camera input direction Y. Delta. Camera input direction Y dot Y times delta at relative. Okay, so this would be the velocity. Did I add the velocity? The velocity would be the same as the sensitivity. Resetting the camera velocity. Oh, I'm making a mess. Oh, I'm making a mess. Okay, hold on. Ugh. It's only been 3 hours, but I can just tell, like, my brain gets sluggish as far as putting together the thoughts after all of this trying to learn and work through. Okay. So if this then we need it to be -1 times this. So actually we could just do skip here and just put this directly next to this. If mouse position .x is less than the camera pan margin, then camera rotator .rotation x, because we're actually rotating the camera rather than panning, plus equals camera input direction y.y times delta. Hold on. Which is the camera? Yeah, camera pivot to that one. Okay, that is correct. Maybe the dog is growling in her sleep. also times -1. And then if is greater than viewport size dot x minus camera pan margin, then this also be here, but not -1. And then here, if mouse position dot y, then camera pan margin, and we do this, maybe times -1. And then this, if y is greater than viewport size dot y minus, then do that. And then we reset those back to 0. Okay, I don't know if this is gonna work at all. Oh, did not like that. This has gotta go. Can't you all gotta go. No, you stay. Okay, this is failed to function. This is not doing the thing that I wanted. Not doing the thing that I wanted at all. Can I just... I'm just gonna undo all that shit, and we're just gonna, like... Okay. We're just gonna solve that problem another day, is what we're gonna do. Oh, nope, you're supposed to also be... You keep that. Oh, right. And then set this back to... Captured. Save. Load. All right, the camera is back to its shitty but functional state. I don't have the brain power. I burned it all. We're all out of steam. I think we're gonna call that one a good evening. I got something accomplished. Not very much, but I fought the good fight, and honestly, that's kind of all you need. That's what you need to keep doing to get better. That particle system really... Not even particle system. The whole VFX system really drove me to the edge of insanity. Well, anyway. Before I forget, I guess, let's close this up and let's open up Git Bash. Let's open up Git Bash in the correct place. Open Git Bash. Git add git commit message added assets and VFX. Oh, whoops. I gotta put that in quotes. Added assets and VFX. I'm doing my due diligence to actually save it for those curious. Whoa, that's not what I meant. I'm doing the git thing to put it up into a remote repo. Git push. Git status. Branches ahead. Git push. Off it goes. Good. Put it away somewhere useful. Come back to that later. All right. Thanks all for coming, hanging out, being here during my more suffering. We will be back Tuesday to continue playing Final Fantasy 16, which certainly has been a good time. Other than that, I hope you all have a good night. I hope you all enjoy the rest of your weekend. I'm certainly going to not think about this tomorrow. just enjoy the rest of the weekend. Just let it go. But yeah, hopefully I'll see you next time. All right. Bye.